So, hi everyone. We are the students of Public Administration second year, and we have decided to do a sort of a podcast in relation to the topic urban versus rural development. So, to introduce ourselves, my name is Adabir Singh. I am from Public Administration second years, and here we have Simranjeet Singh from Public Administration and Mridul Pathania from Public Administration as well. So, starting off, to shed light on the topic, first of all, it is important to understand that what actually is development. So, development is not just quantitative growth, but it also involves quantitative as well as qualitative aspects, which can also be told as improvement in the quality of education, the quality of healthcare, the quality of service delivery. So, first of all, I would like to ask Simranjeet that what are people engaged in a rural area? Like, what do they do? What is their occupation?
ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ ਯਾਰ ਤਿੰਨ ਚਾਰ ਮੇਨ ਸੋਰਸ ਆ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਸੋਰਸ ਤਾਂ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਖੇਤੀਬਾੜੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਦੂਸਰਾ ਸੋਰਸ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਡੈਰੀ ਫਾਰਮ ਦਾ। ਠੀਕ ਆ,
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਇਹ ਦੋ ਮੇਨ ਸੋਰਸ ਆ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਦਾ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਵਾ ਸਾਰਾ ਸੋਰਸ ਹੁੰਦਾ। ਠੀਕ ਆ, ਤੀਸਰਾ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਸੇਲ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਸਬਜ਼ੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਵਾਲਾ ਉਹ ਹੁੰਦਾ। ਇਹ ਤਿੰਨ ਸੋਰਸ ਆ। ਦੂਸਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਪਰ ਜੇ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸੁਣੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਰਬਨ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜਲਦੀ ਸੁਣੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਵੱਲੋਂ, ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਥੋੜੀ ਘੱਟ ਸੁਣੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ।
And Mridul Pathania, what sort of activities, what sort of occupation do people living in urban areas do?
Basically, in urban areas, many people, like talking about middle class people, they are actually engaged in doing their jobs, their daily life jobs. For example, for instance, talking about well educated but from middle class families, they are engaged in teaching. They are like professors or teachers in schools and colleges. And other than these, there are engineers, doctors, and compounders, etc. etc. And on the pinnacle of urban employment and all, there are people who own multinational corporations and they are engaged in business. And other than that, there are IAS officers and etc. etc. Basically, talking about administration, the pinnacle of administration, they are basically settled in urban areas.
So, as mentioned by Mr. Simranjeet, that the people living in rural areas are mainly engaged in primary sector activities such as animal husbandry, farming. So, their dependence on this sector, is this the reason that why the rural areas are less developed as compared to urban areas?
For that, I would like to say that basically government believes that nowadays, with contemporary times, government believes that focusing on tertiary and secondary activities, that would be better for our economy, like to develop the infrastructure, to modernize things, that would make us like stand above in terms of global hierarchy.
But don't you think that you know that agriculture is the as the backbone of the country,
Backbone of the country.
country as well as the
Yes,
economy?
yes. On that, I was
But completely shifting your focus on industry and secondary sector or the tertiary sector, don't you think it would create a very good imbalance?
that would be definitely the case, because I want to say that like agriculture, it is the root of our country.
Yes, it is.
From previous times when we like India was called as Sone ki chidi, like Sone ki chidi. It was at that time. Were we that educated? Were we modern? We were totally dependent on agriculture and the wealth of.
So, when discussing about the topic of rural versus urban development, a similar topic related to this particular agenda is that urbanization. The urbanization can be explained as the movement of people, the migration of people from rural to urban areas for certain reasons, obviously. Now, one of the big reason that people move from rural to urban areas is that it is because of search of literacy for their students or for their themselves. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Simranjeet that what is the reason that people are not getting literacy, people are not getting education in rural areas?
ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਹਲੇ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਾਲੇ ਤੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸਕੂਲ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਇੰਨੇ, ਠੀਕ ਆ। ਜੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਬਣੇ ਵੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਟੀਚਰ ਆ ਉਹ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੂਰੇ ਹੋਣਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ, ਠੀਕ ਆ। ਤੇ ਟੀਚਰ ਪੂਰੇ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਣ ਤੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਫੈਸਿਲਿਟੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ, ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਆ ਉਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਭੇਜਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ, ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਪੂਰੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈਗੀ। ਤੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੋ ਵੀ ਰਹੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਇੰਨੇ ਖਾਸ ਪੱਧਰ ਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈਗੀ, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ। ਦੂਸਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ, ਹੁਣ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਹੈ, ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ, ਉਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਆ ਉਹ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਉੱਥੇ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਉੱਥੇ ਜੌਬ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ। ਤੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੌਬ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਸਿਰਫ 2-3 ਹੀ ਆ, ਜੌਬ ਵੀ ਕੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਕੰਮ ਹੀ ਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਖੇਤੀਬਾੜੀ ਦਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਵਾ, ਠੀਕ ਆ। ਇੱਕ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਡੈਰੀ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਆ ਉਹ ਆ, ਹੋਰ ਉੱਥੇ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਪਿੰਡ 'ਚ, ਇਸ ਲਈ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ।
Similar question to Mr. Mridul, that urban areas में ऐसा क्या है? What is the quality of education in urban areas that people from rural areas are so attracted that they are ready to leave everything, their land back at rural areas, they want to sell it just to get education from urban areas. ऐसा क्या हो रहा है?
So, as for the question why parents send their children from rural areas to urban areas for studying, so the parents who have been living in the rural areas for many years, they want their children to break their vicious cycle of poverty that they have been living in and improve the standard of their life by gaining better education and good quality of education. So for that particular reason they send their children in the hope of getting good quality of education and a better knowledge and a better chance in life to get a good employment opportunity.
So very well explained by you that why students are sent to urban areas for education. But at the same time मैंने देखा है भी काफ़ी अच्छे स्कूल से बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, एजुकेशन लेते हैं, उसके बाद अच्छे कॉलेजेस लेते हैं, काफ़ी हाई फीसिस दे के भी they are still unemployed. So Simranjit, why is the reason they are still unemployed because of what?
ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਤੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਅਨਪਲਾਈਡ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਟੱਡੀ ਆ ਨਾ ਉਸ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ, ਠੀਕ ਆ। ਹੁਣ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਜੌਬ ਲਈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਜੌਬ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਵਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੀ ਕੁਆਲੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਾ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਮਤਲਬ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ, ਪਰ ਉਹ ਮਤਲਬ ਆਪਣਾ ਉਹੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ 20-30 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਚੱਲਣ ਡਿਆ ਉਹੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੁਛ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟੀਕਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਜੌਬ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਜੌਬ ਦਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਮਤਲਬ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਹੁਣ ਕੀ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੌਬ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ।
So you talked about unemployment in rural areas, but I want to say that government is really doing hard to provide employment opportunities in the rural areas for the people who are like backward and illiterate, who are not able to do anything by migrating in urban areas. For instance, talking about Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Generation Guarantee Act. So what are your points about that particular act, NREGA?
ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ 2005 ਵਿੱਚ ਆਈ ਸੀਗੀ, ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵਾ ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ 100 ਦਿਨ ਗਰੰਟੀ ਦੀ ਕੰਮ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਵਾ, ਠੀਕ ਆ, ਰੂਰਲ ਵਿੱਚ।
ठीक है. So the question before was that why are people not getting employment, but and then proceeding next the government introduced a scheme so that they can get employment. Now my point of view is that you are getting education from urban areas, you are moving to urban areas, getting education, then getting into a college or a university which is really good. You spend a lot of amount of money to get into a scheme named Manrega. So that's my whole point, that you get so much quality of education to work in the fields.
The thing I talked about is NREGA, that policy, that scheme is for people. Usually you have been seeing that the older people, they are indulged in that labor, whatever that is, the NREGA, the village where the scheme is being active.
So your point is only the old age people or people who are aged.
People who are unemployed and want to improve the standard of their life and their children so that they can like pay the fees of their children's education and all.
So they work so that their children get quality education.
Yeah.
To remain unemployed.
Yeah.
To remain
employed.
yeah, that's my whole point. That is I'm telling about that the employment opportunities are so less in India that even if you get so much good quality education, you are still dependent on schemes like Manrega.
So, I agree what you are saying that there are like they study to remain unemployed. But the main thing is that nowadays in contemporary times, government is focusing more on entrepreneurship opportunities. Government is promoting students or people with caliber or skills to start their startups and new projects. But the main thing is that where people from rural areas are lacking, that is awareness. Government has created those opportunities, but what about awareness? People in rural areas, they are not even aware of their basic rights. So what about the opportunities? How can be they aware about those opportunities which the government is providing to them? So my concern is, I want to ask you about a simple question: how can government make awareness at that level that even a single person, even a child in a house in a rural area can get aware about what can he do if not education can provide him anything?
So, to counter this problem, it is necessary to build effective education institution back at the rural areas, because as mentioned by Simranjit earlier in his speech, that in rural areas the schools, the educational facilities are not that developed, so that is why they move to urban areas and so on. So if government spend their resources, spend their time, spend their administration, use everything to develop the education facilities and the sector in the rural areas, it is necessary, and it will ultimately make the younger children available to all the knowledge about and awareness about their rights, uh, what is necessary for them and everything, so that they can ultimately uh, transfer that information and share that information with their parents, with their guardians, and ultimately the whole rural area will be educated to take any steps or what they can do in their future, and that's it.
But talking about unemployment, don't you think so that in urban areas also we see a lot of people wandering here and there in search of job opportunities? In that context, I think that rural areas are better. That we can't see people wandering here and there for getting, "Ki, give me some work, give me some work." They are always engaged in work, whether they are in fields, whether they are in crafting, or whether they are in working in a dairy, or whether they are doing their wages. They are engaged in work. But talking about urban areas, we see people here and there in crowds seeking job opportunities, seeking a single labor. What are your points about that?
So we have always been debating about the people, the standard of lives in urban and rural areas. Now there has been always has been a distinction between both of them, that rural areas, they are more settled, although their life living standards are a bit inferior, I would say, as compared to urban areas, but ultimately their quality of life is somehow better, although they are not so exposed to the quality of education and quality of healthcare, but still the environment around them is better, I would say, as compared to urban development
So,
areas. But at the same time, the it is necessary for those areas to provide all that facilities which are available in urban areas, so that it is well balanced in both of the ways.
so my friend here has raised a good point about healthcare. Healthcare. So, I being a person resident of a village, to be honest, for better healthcare system, we have to like go from 10 to 15 kilometers for getting a better healthcare opportunities. There is only a small dispensary in my village that I don't think so is like appropriate for every different type of diseases or what we say problem, healthcare problem. So what are your points about like healthcare? Like we are human beings, we are human beings, we get sick or we get diseases type of type, we feel ill, and for that you think that in but like normal disease can be cured, but what about emergencies? What
Yes.
and
First of all, people in rural areas don't get ill so frequently because their diet is good, the atmosphere is good, they have greenery and trees around them, so that they don't get ill. But if you talk about a serious injury or emergency, yeah, that is a problem. That is why I mentioned that government needs to spend their resources developing both the educational facilities as well as the the health facilities. So that is my whole point, that government here has a very important role. That every awareness about a certain disease or injury is necessary, but at the same time, the facilities that can be availed are also so crucial, and the only role which that can be fulfilled is by the government.
So Simranjit, like, what are your points regarding healthcare in villages, healthcare service in your village?
ਹੈਲਥ ਕੇਅਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁਣ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਘਾਟ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਜੇ ਹੁਣ ਐਮਰਜੈਂਸੀ ਵਾਲੇ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂਗੇ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਪਰ ਜੇ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਦੇਖੀਏ ਅਰਬਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਰੇਕ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਰੇਕ ਥਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਰੇਕ ਹੈਲਥ ਕੇਅਰ ਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਸੁਵਿਧਾ
ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਲੰਧਰ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖ ਲਓ,
ਹਾਂ।
ਕਿੰਨੇ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਨੇ ਜਲੰਧਰ। ਜਲੰਧਰ I think in India it has highest like number of hospitals. I heard from a resident of Jalandhar that Jalandhar has throughout the India Jalandhar has highest number of hospitals. ਕਿੰਨੇ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਹੈਗੇ ਜਲੰਧਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਕੋਈ ਆਈਡੀਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ? ਜਿੱਦਾਂ
70 75
ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ 200 ਪਲੱਸ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ, ਹੋਰ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਹੋਊਗਾ?
So here, guys, my friend said there are around 70 plus hospitals, and my another friend is saying that there are around 200 hospitals in Jalandhar. But the real thing is that Jalandhar has over 800 hospitals. Literally 800 plus hospitals are there functionable in Jalandhar, including all the little dispensaries and clinics. So here my question is, what is the point of having so much medical development that a village, a single village is having only one dispensary, and entire city is having 800 plus hospitalization? So what are your points regarding this?
ਉਹੀ ਜੇ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਖੀਏ ਤੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕ ਜਾਂ ਦੋ ਹੋਣਗੇ, ਐਮਰਜੈਂਸੀ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ। ਤੇ ਜੇ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਜ਼ਿਲ੍ਹੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਖੀਏ ਤੇ ਦੇਖ ਸਕਦੇ 800 ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਵਾ 800 ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਕਹਿਣ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ, ਤੇ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਫਰਕ ਆ। ਇੱਦਾਂ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ।
ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਨੂੰ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਲ ਠਹਿਰਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ?
ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਆ, ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਹੀ ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦੀ। ਹੁਣ ਐਮਰਜੈਂਸੀ ਸਰਕਾਰੀ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹ ਕਰੇ
ਆਪਾਂ
ਐਮਰਜੈਂਸੀ।
ਮੁੱਦਾ ਉਠਾਇਆ ਵੀ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਲਿਟਰੇਸੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ, ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਆਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਲਿਟਰੇਸੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ, ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ। ਬਟ ਗੱਲ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਹਸਪਤਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੀ ਉਦੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ। ਰੂਰਲ ਏਰੀਆਜ਼ ਦਾ ਹਾਲ ਉਹੀ ਰਹੂਗਾ, ਇੱਕ ਡਿਸਪੈਂਸਰੀ ਹੀ ਰਹੂਗੀ, ਤੇ ਅਰਬਨ ਏਰੀਆਜ਼ 'ਚ 800 ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਵੀ ਬਣਨਗੇ, ਅੱਗੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ 1000 ਵੀ ਬਣਨਗੇ, ਤੇ ਮੁੱਖ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਈ।
So here, my friends, the role of privatization comes. Like, majority of the hospitals in Jalandhar are private hospitals, and they have set their private hospitals here. Why? The reason is population, and the reason is economy. Here, like my friend said, Adab, that in rural areas people fell ill less as compared to the people in urban areas. So what is the reason? I guess pollution and the standard of life.
Yes, it is right that pollution is the reason why people fall ill more in urban areas as compared to rural areas, because the concentration of cars and vehicles in urban areas is so much that it releases very harmful gases like
Even the
carbon
industries.
Yes, even talking about the industrial areas, they are so concentrated and it decreases the AQI of the area, and that is why people are more prone to diseases which are related to lungs and respiratory diseases. So that is why people feel more ill in urban areas.
ਬਠਿੰਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਬੀਕਾਨੇਰ ਟ੍ਰੇਨ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਂਸਰ ਪੇਸ਼ੈਂਟ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ।
ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਚ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾਤਰ ਕੈਂਸਰ ਪੇਸ਼ੈਂਟਸ ਅਰਬਨ ਏਰੀਆਜ਼ ਤੋਂ ਹੁੰਦੇ। So this is a clear example that more of urban people are diagnosed with cancer.
So, like, what is the point? We are like, the world is really confused that where is the better quality of life? If we talk about education, then we can clearly say that urban area has better quality of life, standard of life. But when we talk about healthcare, so we see that rural areas have better quality of life, but even they don't have better quality of healthcare services.
So that is why this topic was given to us, the urban development versus rural development. This has always been a debate, and we believe that it is always going to be a debate. And this was our we tried to give our own perspectives
But my
about the
last
topic.
question is like, where should government focus more in order to develop? Whether it should be rural areas or either should be urban areas. Where should government focus more as respect to the contemporary times?
See, government should focus on areas which are needed to be focused. This might be a simple statement, but if some state if a rural area is requires some upgradation in the education sector, that the resources must be spent on upgrading it. And if some aspect of urban area is lacking, like maybe pollution management, so government might spend resources on this. At the same time, the education sector in both the areas must be developed so that people are more educated and aware about what they need to do and what they have to.
I have one more question. We all are knowing that government has initiated a plan, smart cities. But don't you think that there can also be a new plan, smart villages? What are
Yeah.
your points about that? A plan called smart villages.
This is a very good proposition led by you, and yes, I have seen certain examples. There is a village in Rajasthan which is equipped with all the resources, with all the facilities. There are good hospitals which are also available for emergency facilities, and there are good quality educations. And there is also, it is the first village of Rajasthan which has achieved gender equality, in which women work, they earn, and they spend money on their children for their education. And I guess their place, their village is zero crime free, and there are CCTVs installed in whole area, and everything is so good. Literacy is 99% there, and everyone is educated, everyone is aware what need to do. And this is a very good example of what smart villages is, and this should be done, and this plan should be executed throughout the rural areas. And smart city plans as uh, is a role, and it is a proposition of government, and they want to do it. So I guess both need to coexist, and we cannot eliminate rural areas, and we cannot expect urban areas to not have any consequences. So I think this debate is always going to be there, and we try to do our best to solve this debate, but I guess we lacked in some perspective, but this is what it is. So thank you very much. uh, we'd like to conclude by saying that this debate is always going to be there, and we tried our best. Thank you very much.